All right, we have another Matt Powell clip, and he's actually put out a lot more content in the last couple of weeks, which means we have to talk about him, unfortunately. It's none of the sappy, like, piano playing in the background with, like, they're trying to be artfully done black and white camera.
That fucking piano. I swear to fucking God.
Not his. Anyway, the title of this video is called College Student Addresses Bad Arguments from Evolutionists, and then the pipe symbol, the Bible Defended. Like, you are getting way too... You're trying too hard with these titles, man. You're really trying too hard with the titles. Because
brevity is the soul of wit in the title, okay?
Yeah,
like,
and college student, you could just say, Matt Powell addresses bad arguments from evolutionists. Like, why does it have to be college student? Because he's hoping to go viral, I bet you. You know?
Exactly what it is.
Hey, Matt, never make a video thinking it's going to go viral. Just be happy when it does.
The internet
can
smell that.
The internet knows.
Smell it.
Yeah, he probably doesn't remember using Dig. I used to use Dig for a lot of things, like, and the Dig effect was a real deal thing that happened to you sometimes, and you could just see the people that were just trying. They were tryhards, is what we would call them, and they would just be like, they just wanted that video to catch on, or they wanted that article they wrote to catch on, and there's nothing worse than looking desperate on the internet, because people can smell that like a shark with blood in the water from miles away. Anyway,
it's like when advertising, it's like when ads like try to use like internet stuff, you know, like the Comcast has the new memesies thing that they're doing.
Yeah.
It's awful. You're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong.
You know who is doing it right, though? Like Twitter Arby's and like Twitter Wendy's and shit. Oh man, you're not paying those guys enough.
They're not, because
they're making like Dragon Ball Z jokes, like on like Arby's, like anime jokes.
They hired a millennial and went, I don't know, you do it.
How would you get people to come to this? Hey, you need a job working for the Deadpool advertising agency, because those guys got it on.
I'm sorry,
point.
when Jon Stewart quit the Daily Show, and Arby's was like, we heard that you're going to be out of a job soon. There's a room here at Arby's, and then they
because they had that. They had that beef.
Because like Jon Stewart like ragged on Arby's for no reason. So fucking funny. So fucking funny.
Anyway, we're doing that thing where people are like, "Oh, just get to the fucking point already." You know, okay, we're talking Matt Powell.
You don't want to get to the point, because the point is Matt Powell.
Matt Powell's the fucking point here. Oh, college student addresses bad arguments. Here we go.
There's a difference, and I don't think it's hard to understand, especially for you homeschoolers. You know, even though they say we're uneducated. It cracks me up, you know, the homeschoolers just happen to score the highest scores in all the tests across America.
When you are writing the test, it's kind of easy to ace it, you know.
Yeah.
There are legit homeschools.
There are legit homeschools.
There are legit homeschools, yes.
And if they are using good information, they tend to be very well educated.
Right.
Yeah, as long as it's not biblically trained homeschooling shit that happens. Had some Mennonite friends that had some hard times because of that kind of shit.
Some very, very hard times. But you know what? Scoring on a test doesn't mean dick.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, you know who else tested well?
Oh, man.
I could test like a motherfucker.
Essay questions were my bitch. Like, I got A's, like, when they were like, essay question here, like, it's out of 10 points. They were, there was one, I went to the teacher, I'm like, I switched classes halfway through the semester for some reason. I don't know, whatever. And I went to the teacher, I'm like, we weren't studying this. I don't know how to answer. She goes, try. And I did, and I got 10 out of 10. I bullshitted the whole fucking thing.
Oh, yeah.
No,
so
you just fill the fucking blue book up, and they just go, oh, fuck, that's too much.
He's got to have it in there somewhere. It's got to be the right answer. So I guess what we're trying to say to Matt Powell is don't bullshit a bunch of bullshitters, because there's a reason we put videos on YouTube.
Yeah, because we're famous material.
Sure, clearly.
Woo!
The homeschoolers just happen to become the best scientists that are out there. You know, Albert Einstein, all these guys were homeschoolers. And
hang on there a second, buddy.
No, Albert Einstein was not a homeschooler.
He did a lot of studying at home because he had learning developmental problems, because they say that he had...
There were also, you know, a lot of other issues back then.
Yeah, I mean, disabled kids had to homeschool.
You know, there's that thing called World War One, World War Two.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay,
there
so
were
I
issues.
did a little bit of research on this one. Albert Einstein left school at 15, which
Yeah.
was not unheard of in the turn of the century, you know?
No.
Right.
Let's see. I've got another point, but he hasn't got to it yet. Give me a second here.
And yet people are like, oh man, they're sheltered. They don't really know what it's like. Well, they may not know what sin is necessarily. They may be innocent to certain sins, but you know what they're not innocent to? Science.
Hey.
That's his trademark, I think. It's just science. Okay, so like we were saying, sorry for the technical difficulties, guys. That's kind of his trademark thing. He like punches it in there. He's like, "Oh, you know what? They're not a obtuse to. It's science." Like,
Science. Yeah, just,
yeah.
science. No, fine.
Anyway,
I'm so sorry, everyone. I'm fine. I'm just recovering from a shock.
no. What I'm probably gonna do is, people have seen it already. Is I'm gonna use the Eric Andre thing, where it's like, "We'll be right back." You know, do you ever watch the Eric Andre show? Anybody? do 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 do.
Yeah.
Either that, or I'll use the JoJo thing where it's like where Yes starts playing in the background and it starts going into a roundabout. That'd be great. Anyway, let's let Matt talk some more because he's stupid.
Yeah.
You know what? They know science better than you ever dreamed. Bill Nye, Richard Dawkins.
Nope. Nope, that's not how that works.
That's
A
not
homeschool
how
kid
that
knows
works.
better than a college trained.
On either of those examples.
Any one of these homeschoolers could take you.
Nope.
Any one of them. You know how?
No.
Through God's Word. You say, oh, that's too simple. Well, you know what God's Word says? God's Word says that there was once a flood.
Okay, wait.
That's not science, though.
He does know that Bill Nye is an engineer, right? I mean, that's like practical science, but it's
Yeah.
not.
Right.
It's not theoretical science kind of stuff. It's it's applied science.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That you deny, Bill Nye. You deny it. Even though
Deny
we've
the
discovered
flood.
fossilized seashells up on the peak of Mount Everest.
Well, no.
No.
Matt,
no.
have you bothered to look into that whole seashells on the Himalayas thing? I mean, they may be up there. I don't know. I'm not up there, but I've seen.
Well, we do know that there's you can find seashells here in Utah pretty often.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
That's because most of Utah used to be a sea.
Well, that's how the Himalayas are as well, because
Yeah.
the Indian Ocean used to be a lot further inland.
Right.
And then
And
also, I don't
then
know if you
as
know
those
this.
plates kind of do the thing, they do one of two
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
They either go up, they go over each other, or they go down. And so they went up this time, and
And
they
then-
made a giant fucking
and
mountain
then-
range. You know?
And then sometimes they go up and then they keep going like this because the plate keeps moving, so they can kind of go from under the sea to not.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
if there is fossilized sea life at the bottom of that, where that plate meets the other plate, and it gets pushed up above sea level, guess that doesn't say that there's a flood. That doesn't say that at all.
No, it doesn't
It's
say
actually
that
a
there was a flood.
wasteful explanation though, because
Well,
why
I mean-
would there be seashells on mountains in wouldn't they rest where there was not a hill because gravity?
Yeah, no, they wouldn't. I mean, if anything,
gravity is still a thing
fossilized
underwater.
seashells on the tops of mountains would disprove your flood. If you knew anything about erosion and
Fluid dynamics.
fluid dynamics, and
Science.
and if you knew anything about science, I'm sorry, but
He goes
a
on a turn.
flood.
He goes on one of his turns here in a second, so just keep paying attention.
Oh, but that's not evidence for a global flood. Well, what is it then?
We just told you.
As we were going.
In order for
Sorry.
something to fossilize, it has to be buried quickly, and it has to be, for something to be fossilized on top of Mount Everest, it had to have gotten there, especially if it was a sea creature, it would have had to have been up there at some point, which means the water level would have had to have been there.
No.
Nope.
He does realize that, in just the last couple of years, they had that really terrible earthquake that shook that whole mountain
Uh-huh.
range.
Yeah.
and they surveyed it again, and they're like, "Oh, it got taller. It might have got shorter. I can't remember which one it is,
What?
but
It moved though.
it moved.
Yeah.
It fucking moved.
That doesn't mean it has
Does
to
he
have been
Like,
some errant clam just happened to swim to the top of a fucking mountain during a flood.
like we have mountains under the sea. Like there's mountains there. Are we finding a lot of clams on the top of mountains? No.
You don't have
No, because that's not where they live.
Sir Edmund Hillary's going like of the clam race where they're going to the top of sea mountains.
The top of the sea mountain.
Right.
Got like respirators for like because like the low ocean really they have to have like suits for like because they're low pressure. They have to have like low pressure suits to get to the higher like the like high pressure so they have to like have suits that make it so they can get to low pressure. Yeah.
I also kind of want to pick on something else he said here because he did say that for a fossil to form, it has to be buried quickly. Yeah, no, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
No.
In fact,
why would that be the case?
Most aren't. Most aren't because what you're doing is confusing mummification with fossilization.
Yeah,
they're totally different things.
Well, and you don't get mummies in the ocean. You
don't. But you're not even thinking about fucking seashells, man. They're already mineralized.
Yeah, they're already a stone.
Seashells will fossilize more readily than anything else because they are already mineralized.
Yeah. Hang on.
They don't have an answer.
We do.
We do.
We just gave you a bunch of them.
So many.
And I actually do like my story of the clam who once the global flood happened went, I am going to climb up there.
I do too. I like the visual.
Right, yeah.
They got the
it's not like it would take a clam, time to climb.
Like those clams that have like the tongue, like the clams that have like the sticky tongue thing, and they're like
slowly pushing it itself up. Clam climbing Everest with its tongue.
That thing. That's a fun visual.
He's cunning.
Well, Matt, he's outsmarted us again.
Oh no!
Some guy. It was so stupid. It just blows my. He comes to me in this debate. I believe the Ica Peruvian Indian stones where they drew the dinosaurs. I believe that's a fraud.
Okay, he threw a fucking left, like a real curveball on us here. So
very different.
He's talking.
I have to give him praise. This time he actually gave us an example of a thing.
Yes, he gave us an actual thing.
Was there?
But how scatterbrained is this guy to go? I mean, we do this on the podcast all the time. We go from one topic to another, but we do that as part of the feature. It's not an error. It's not. It's,
right. But he's doing this. He's doing this as prepared statement. That's what's amazing.
Yeah, he has a lectern. He can actually make notes for these things.
Is he preparing?
No.
Well, I mean, he's. I probably clearly not. But
just recently, I actually addressed a congregation. Not a church, Sunday assembly, not a church, not a cult, but that's what we would say if we were one. So I did a community show and tell, and I talked about like my experience with art and kind of like how it's intersected with trauma and stuff like that. I didn't make tangents because I had an outline.
Like we could have if we got paid to do this.
If we had money, if we had more money to do it. That's right, patrons. This is on you.
So
your fault.
He threw a left. I mean, this comes out of left field. The Ica stones that he's talking about here, where they're like these engraved stones of the Ica or Ica. I don't know how to pronounce it here, but where, God, what country was it they had these in?
I would assume
Peru.
They're Incan.
Probably, Peruvian. That's what it is here. Mm-hmm. And so on some of these stones, they have like supposedly dinosaurs and stuff on it, and they have a lot of stuff. They have a lot of stuff that would be modern to the time that we know of that didn't exist back then. So they were. What's the term I'm looking for here? Where
there were things that could be interpreted that way, but then
they were anachronistic. Anachronistic. That's what I'm looking for.
Okay, but if you look in the context of the entire things, like they were like they have airplanes, and then like you look in their whole thing, it's like no, it's a bird.
Well,
Yeah.
the thing is that he's talking about this guy that says that he thinks that they're a hoax because the guy that made the stones came up and said that they're a hoax.
Yeah.
Oh, there's like a specific hoax that was done. Oh.
Yeah.
I thought they were talking about like the Incan birds that kind of look like airplanes, but they're clearly birds. Like that's what I thought they were doing.
No, this one guy by the name of Cabrera, he had a collection of these things, and he kept finding more of them. Had about 11,000 stones in the 1970s, which is a giant fucking treasure trove of
that's
objects that you happen to find.
Yeah.
And there was a guy that kept finding these stones for him. What is his name? Oshuya is the guy's name. 1975. He was him and another farmer.
Stones, huh?
In 73, during an interview, the guy said that he had faked the stones that he had sold. And so he forged the stones that they gave to the Cabrera guy by copying images from comic books, textbooks, and magazines. Later on, he recanted the forging story during an interview with the German journalist, saying that he had claimed they were a hoax to avoid punishment for selling archaeological artifacts. This is all from Wikipedia. In 77, during the BBC documentary Pathway to the Gods, the same guy produced an Ica stone with a dentist drill and claimed to have produced a fake patina by baking the stone in cow dung. And that same year, another BBC documentary was released with a skeptical analysis of the stones, and the newfound attention to the phenomenon prompted the Peruvian authorities to arrest this guy for, selling archaeological artifacts.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. And so that's because he said, yeah, they're a hoax because he doesn't want to get arrested. Then he came back and said, no, they're not a hoax. And then he gets arrested because if they were real, he just broke a law by selling these things to somebody. So once he gets arrested, what do you think he says?
They're fake. They're fake.
He found them and instead admitted they were hoaxes, saying that making these stones is easier than farming the land.
Yeah.
He engraved the stones with images and books and magazines as examples, and knives and chisels and a dental drill. He also said that he had not made all the stones. He was not punished and continued to sell similar stones to tourists as trinkets. The stones continued to be made and carved by other artists as forgeries of the original forgeries. So it's now a thing that they do. It's now a
cottage industry. Yeah.
It's a fucking hoax. It's not real.
Yeah.
Some of those stones could potentially be real.
Sure.
But then again, they're useless without context, right? Like interpreting whatever they're drawing is used. And then people.
Yeah, the worst thing you could do to an archaeological thing
forever.
The worst thing you could do to an archaeological object is be like, hey, I found this thing. Here, what is it? No, leave it where you fucking find it, man.
Yeah.
Report it to a scientist, please.
Hey, I found a bone in my backyard. What is it? Be like, where's the rest of it? Oh, well, we had a garden we needed to dig, so we dug up anyway, but we brought you the one bone we found. It's like, where it lies is almost more important than what you get out of it sometimes, people. Jesus, man. Oh, but yeah, Matt, what else? What
dinosaur is this? That's a phibia. That's all I can tell you.
Well, let's see what Matt's going to finish saying.
Do a thing with the carbon.
Believe that they're counterfeits. I'm thinking, wow, you're discrediting over 5,000 Ica-Peruvian Indians that saw these creatures. Not only that, just the fact that you told me it's a counterfeit shows me that there's an original.
No.
What?
That's not how. That's not
how words
that's
work.
That's not how it works.
I can fake like
an orgasm.
Japanese
that doesn't
writing.
mean
That doesn't mean like there was an original I was basing it off of. Like,
right? No, yeah.
I'm like, yeah, this looks Japanesey. That happens all the time.
Right? No,
man, that pisses me off so bad.
A counterfeit is not a replica or a copy of something. A counterfeit, it can be, yes, but a counterfeit is just a fake.
Good enough, you know.
A lie. It's a lie.
It's an approximation.
Right.
Yeah. Like, no, I mean...
That's not how this works.
Yeah, that's not how it works.
It's not a binary thing.
Did Matt Powell get homeschooled in English, too?
That's like saying, oh, you're printing fake money. That must mean there's no real money. Look at the logic behind... You know what? And I believe firmly, and I'm just going to say this right now to Steve McRae and the great debate community, that's why you guys threw me out. Because you don't like what your own scientists say.
No, because you're terrible at this.
You are so bad at this. It's going to be interesting when we have him on.
He's basically saying that all fantasy books are built on reality.
Sure.
Because they're like loosely inspired by the idea of Schwartz and Schwartz.
The Schwartz.
The Schwartz.
The Schwartz be with you.
Swords, shields, and armor. Therefore, they're based on reality. I don't know if he knows this, but Lord of the Rings is not a documentary.
Well, it happened on Middle Earth. I mean,
it doesn't resemble anything that ever happened in history, ever.
It is counterfeit history.
There's Harry Potter. Harry Potter is even like our world. Oh, and the Ninja Turtles aren't real.
Yeah.
I don't just know that.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to be eating any food that you get in the sewers of New York City. You don't know.
You don't do that.